Hello and welcome to another episode of Fikava Vet Chat. Today we are talking about dreams, and unfortunately a lot of our dreams, especially over the last 18 months, didn't come through because of the worldwide pandemic. But yet there are some people or some colleagues out there who have held on to their dreams, to their big ideas, and they show us that there is just so much more to life than just veterinary medicine. So that the horizon is, or the sky is the limit. In this case here, however, the limit is something in the range of 100,000 kilometers, all the way around the Earth, going through 66 countries, 5 continents, and ideally down the line breaking Guinness World Record. So what we are talking here tonight about is traveling around the world as a couple of veterinary surgeons in an ambulance. So I'd like to welcome to this episode of Fikava Vet Chat Rachel Nixon and Lawrence Dodi. Hi Rachel. Hi Lawrence.
Hi, Wolfgang.
And it's very nice, I should say, you're joining us actually from inside your ambulance.
We are.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you give us, to start with, right away, a little bit of a guided tour? So how does it look like in there? How can we imagine it?
Tidy. It's a very small space, but we're currently sat in the dining living area. This converts into a second living area. I will just try and turn the very small space. Okay. So there's a kitchen over here, and a cooker on this side. Yeah. Dogs on the floor at the moment.
Oh yes, I forgot to mention Peggy is joining. Oh yes, she listened to our word name as well. So Peggy is coming with you, for at least part of the journey.
Yep.
And that's the kind
of
in the back of an ambulance. That's as much space. It's the quickest house viewing you've ever been to.
That's really it. Yeah.
Good. And I have to admit how this sort of interview came sort of about. We met a little while ago in Cornwall, where you had parked your ambulance sort of behind the clinic where I was locuming, and I thought, what is this about? So what a crazy idea. And then we obviously started talking. So talking about crazy ideas or great sort of, what shall I say, sort of attempts to do something unusual. How did you come up with this idea? And whose fault was it?
I think it's a combined effort to make it as complicated as possible, but we didn't start out as evolved as it has at the moment. We met in New Zealand a couple of years ago, and we started talking about wanting to do a trip. We had actually discussed doing the Mongol Rally, which is you get a car that's under £500 and you drive it from London to Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia, and that had been our initial sort of okay, let's do this, and then we started dating, and we were sort of planning this trip to go to Mongolia. Mm-hmm. You can very much plan your own route, which I think is our first where it all went wrong, because we started trying to include so many places between London and Mongolia that we were just going, wow, this is really not a very direct route. And I think one of us fatefully said, well, if we're going halfway around the world, why don't we just keep going? Mm. And so it sort of started to morph into, okay, we weren't going to do the Mongol Rally anymore. We were going to try and do something ourselves, but in the same spirit, trying to sort of drive through very much under our own steam. And I was still in New Zealand at the time, and Rachel was over here doing an internship at Liverpool University. and your brother had spotted this ambulance on eBay.
Mm.
That was it, really.
We weren't looking for an ambulance. We were just looking for either a Land Rover or a Toyota to sort of convert and to use for travel purposes. And I don't know, we just fell in love with it, and
that was it, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So with the ambulance, I mean, we were talking here about Guinness World Record. I mean, if you manage to do this 100,000 plus kilometers, has anyone attempted that in an ambulance before? Is there such a record already?
No.
So it's been done in a fire engine. It's been done in a police car. It's been done in a taxi. No one's yet done it in an ambulance. So we have a minimum that we have to do. But we will, I think we're effectively the first people doing it. So as long as we get over, I think it's 20,000 kilometers, then we have the record. But I think hopefully, as long as it all goes to plan, we're going to hopefully go further than that. So that's the plan.
Okay. I mean, ambulance also, I mean, a fire engine. I'm just thinking, ooh, that might be that might get you into some interesting situations, because sort of people might think, oh yes, ambulance is coming. So where they might be, I don't know, pleasantly or not pleasantly surprised if they realize, oh, this is a different sort of ambulance, or you might actually, I don't know, I expect it to suddenly transport people or animals or something like that.
I mean, we have part of the requirement for the Guinness World Record was for us to obviously keep the outside looking like an ambulance, but the vehicle has to be able to function as an ambulance should the situation arise. So we are carrying a stretcher, we're carrying a fully stocked first aid kit. The center of the ambulance can be packed away, so you can fit a stretcher in the middle still. So technically, yes, we could get asked to do something. There's enough, I think, writing on the outside that as soon as someone gets close enough, they might realize that it's just vets.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have to say, I mean, I had a few clients that, I mean, that might not bode well on the national health system in the UK, but I had quite a few clients that were admitting to me actually that they rather would be treated by a vet than by a human doctor. So I should say at this point, my wife is a human doctor, and I'm in trouble for comments like that. So, but well, that's in any case, I think sort of being treated by a vet is maybe sometimes not the worst option you might get, rather than by an accountant or I don't know, something like that. So that's great. So then the planning, I mean, around the world, sort of where do you start? Because I mean, Europe is possibly fairly straightforward, although you might possibly sort of correct me on that. But then so many other countries, visas, legal requirements to get into the country, I don't know, sort of proof of, well, that you can support yourself financially, also proof that you won't apply for asylum or something. I don't know. So also, I mean, you take Peggy with you. Sort of, I don't know in how far you need to import health certificates for the dog or something like that. So tell me, how do you do it?
I think it's got worse post-Brexit and post-COVID. I think that has made the world so much more complicated for planning. Europe, I think, wasn't going to be a problem. I think it might be a little bit more with, we're both British citizens, so I think with Brexit, that's going to make things a bit more complicated.
We are on sort of plan F at the moment. It keeps changing, and at the moment we're very much keeping though we have the route that we've planned to go through, everything is going to very much change as soon as we leave. We'll be planning ahead pretty much, looking to see what the situations are with regard to COVID, entry requirements, war zones, what's changing, whatever, because obviously part of our route's going to go past Afghanistan. That might change, we don't know what's going to happen.
Nice.
Up until recently, Azerbaijan was starting to have problems with their neighbours, and we're driving through there. So it is going to be very much, we have the route we want to do, but it's liable to change as we go. Rachel's done most of the trip planning. We sort of separated it out quite early on to just divvy up tasks. I was very much responsible for sourcing equipment and with vehicle related stuff, and then Rachel's taken more the admin role in terms of organizing the day-to-day everything else. Yes.
And how do you finance all that? Sort of, you have sort of worked sort of as locums in advance, and then you hope to live off your savings, or are you hoping to get opportunities to work along the way?
I mean, we don't have a house. We don't really have material possessions wise. We don't really own a lot. We've sort of got rid of most of what we did own, and we've locumed fairly non-stop now for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So we saved as hard as we can before we go.
Yeah.
I guess there are going to be periods, for instance, when we get to Russia, and then we put the vehicle on a boat to, well, hopefully to Australia or New Zealand. There's going to be sort of 6 to 8 weeks that the car's on the boat. So if needs be, we're going to have to work when it's on boats to sort of finance the next leg. That's the plan.
Yeah.
We are taking some. We have sort of joined sort of online vet blogging companies and things. So potentially there's the opportunity to do a little bit of writing along the road. It's not going to keep us in travel, but it will help us just keep keep things ticking over a little bit and cover some costs that we're going to experience. But most of the money that we're going to have to spend, we've saved for over the last couple of years, and we've budgeted fairly vigorously to sort of cover for most eventualities. With, and with a lot of contingency for worst case scenario. So
I mean, you're starting off your trip in Europe, and I mean, this is something Ficava Vet Chat. When we talk about Ficava, we always sort of talk about the Ficava family, and what I often find is sort of vets, especially companion animal vets around the world. I mean, there are not so many of us, and if you are that in one country and you meet somebody else, you might not know each other directly, but it's usually just one handshake away from a person you both know. And I mean, I'm a sort of a great fan of visiting colleagues in different countries, seeing how they work and how their life is. And I, at this point, probably like to point out you have a website. It's www.overlandingambulance.com. We will also write it down at the end of this YouTube video and the podcast, and you can also see it on the Ficava website then. If somebody sort of sees it or wants to get in touch with you guys, one can do that through your website.
Yeah, we would love that. We have actually had people contact us
from Bulgaria. There was a lovely vet from Bulgaria who works in shelter medicine there, who contacted said if you need somewhere to park the ambulance and have a shower and see the clinic. And we've both been quite lucky. We have worked in different countries as vets, and it's super interesting seeing vetting in different countries, so now I find it so interesting. So we would love that, really would love that.
And it would be for us also, it would be nice to follow your journey, actually, sort of not only through Europe but also around the globe. It's such a nice sort of idea. Sort of, I mean, I know you both are hardworking vets, but then also you just grasp this opportunity to say, okay, let's do something completely different. And sometimes possible to combine these two things. So that's just so great. So going back to Peggy. So Peggy is coming with you all the way, or part of the way, or what's the plan with her?
I think we would love her to come all the way. I think logistically, she's probably going to come for a good portion of it. We're going to take her at least to the point where we get to Turkey.
Yeah, she's going to do Europe.
She'll do Europe, but we may have to consider before we start going into the Stans and out to Mongolia, and then from there we're going to have to start doing a lot of shipping between countries. I think at that stage, I think to be fair on her as well, we would probably send her back home to be with your parents, which she loves anyway.
She moved to New Zealand once, and she's done the flight UK to New Zealand back, but that was for like, we were there for 3 years, so I don't know that I would necessarily ship her for shorter. I think realistically she that might be her.
So the journey starts in Europe, but then you're heading down to Africa to take part in the what is that? The Sahara Banga Rally. Is that correct? Is that still the case?
Until last week, but unfortunately, there's been a extension of a state of emergency in Morocco because of COVID and political upheaval there. So actually, that's had to literally last week was cancelled. So we are, the route's changed slightly. We will be leaving on the 2nd, heading down through France into Spain, Portugal, and we'll go as far as Gibraltar before circling back up to head towards Italy. The reason we're doing that part of the route, because what we're also wanting to do is achieve a true circumnavigation of the globe. And there are certain stipulations if you're going to do that. And one of them is to be able to hit Antipodean points. So 2 points equidistant on the other side of the globe. There aren't many of those, particularly on the route that we're taking. So some of those are in Spain. So we're going to hit the points that we need to for later on, and then head back down through Italy, see your sister, and then into Greece. Because of Brexit, it has changed how we're traveling through Europe. Originally, we were going to do, just keep traveling around Europe, but because we can't stay in the Schengen zone for more than 3 months in a 6-month period, we're going to do a 3-month period getting out of Greece into Macedonia, Bosnia, and Albania, spend the 3 months waiting for our ability to get back into Europe, and then head back in, go up via Scandinavia, then head back down, and then out via Turkey. Is that the plan anyway?
Well, a lot of really helpful vets with really interesting clinics in all the countries you've mentioned. So let us know if you're somewhere stuck, so then we have a look. We might be able to help you out there. And as I said, it would be so nice to follow you on your journey. It's just such a brilliant idea. It's also so that you raise funds for a charity. Let's talk a little bit more about that. There is the Anthony Nolan Trust. What are they doing, and why are you raising funds for them?
Yeah, so we chose to. It's always difficult when you do these big trips and you think we want to do something, we want to raise some money whilst we're doing it, and we made it. Well, our list was quite long. You soon realise that actually there are lots of people you want to support and lots of charities you want to raise money for. But we sort of whittled it down to the Anthony Nolan and Vet Life. The reason we chose the Anthony Nolan, it's a charity that I've supported for a long time. My dad used to work for them. He used to be a research professor for the Anthony Nolan until he passed away. And I've always wanted to. I've done the sort of the 3 Peaks Challenge for them, and
what is the Anthony Nolan Trust doing?
They do research into bone marrow cancer predominantly, and blood disorders. They do a lot of typing. So if you need to, they run the register for bone marrows. So if you are going to be a donor for
organize and match then donor and recipients.
Absolutely, as well as doing research into helping people that have those conditions to make sure that those transplants are as successful as they can be, and trying to combat, and provide people the support that they need. So.
And then VetLife, what are they doing?
So obviously VetLife, being a veterinary community, VetLife provides support to vets, particularly
vet
nurses and vet
support,
support,
vet students, pretty much anyone in the veterinary community. They provide both mental health and also financial support. And they have a 24-hour, 7 days a week, both email and phone helpline for vets and people in the vet profession, really. So
it's a great organization. I mean, this is obviously for the UK, but I mean, this is something that not a lot of other countries have this. I mean, they also, I think they resulted out of the Veterinary Benevolent Fund.
Yes,
they also have some cottages, so in case somebody needs a place to stay temporarily, they provide that. And as you said, I mean, it's not only sort of mental health where they help, it's also if somebody, a veterinary professional has some financial hardship, they have some funds where they can help within limits. And this is such a great thing to have.
Support for families, because it is the case that unfortunately we do lose members of the profession, and they're also there to provide that support for colleagues and family members that that unfortunately find themselves in that situation as well, which I think is important.
And you are also very conscious about sort of the carbon footprint your journey is causing. So you're trying to offset as far as you can do that during the journey. Tell us a little bit more about that.
I mean, we would have liked to have driven in an electric Land Rover, but it's not really that practical from either a financial or a just charging point of view. I'm sure that will change in years to come. So we were looking early on to say, well, okay, we are trying to be we like to be as environmentally conscious as possible, but we are also aware we are driving a diesel Land Rover around the world. So we've paired up with the World Land Trust. That's right, isn't it? Yeah. And they allow you to calculate how much carbon you're likely to be creating. And so we are, at the end of the trip, going to offset basically the amount of mileage that we do personally for our own money to try and make up for the impact that we're going to have. And we've been trying to encourage our family and friends to do the same. Just it's something we can all do. We can't all afford an electric car yet or have the practicalities of doing that, but we can all offset what we currently use as a means to make a change or try and do something to help the environment. So
yeah. I also noticed that there seems to be a very strong link to Liverpool and Liverpool Football Club, because I think you're starting at the Royal Albert Docks in Liverpool, and the journey is supposed to finish in Uruguay at the the Liverpool FC in Montevideo. Is that correct? Tell us more about that.
I'm from Liverpool. I love the city. I grew up there. I have worked there for many years, and I love it as a city. And Lawrence went to vet school in Liverpool as well. And up until last year, when we quit our jobs to go traveling, that's where we were both living and working. So I think it made sense to start there. As a city, we love the place, and we found there's a Liverpool Football Club, obviously in Liverpool, and there's a Liverpool Football Club in Montevideo in South America. So we thought it seemed, given we're hoping to drive to South America, that's the grand plan, that it would be kind of nice to drive from one Liverpool Football Club to the other Liverpool Football Club.
Yes, yeah. No, and I mean, there are some, what shall I say, sort of international ways of communicating or languages that are not languages as such. I mean, sort of, we talked about veterinary medicine already. So, I mean, you might actually not understand each other's language, but when there's an animal coming in, I don't know, that has a seizure, so we know what to do, which drugs sort of to do, and that will be the same thing worldwide. Football is, I think, another sort of uniting sort of language. Dance certainly is something like that. Chess, for example. I mean, you might not understand the language the other person speaks, but if you speak chess or backgammon, for example, the rules are clear. The rules are the same. Bridge, same sort of thing. You don't need to understand each other. And that's a nice thing. That's also the nice uniting thing with football. And there are Liverpool fan clubs around the world. So it's so great. I really hope, I mean, your journey is going to start beginning of October. Yeah, 2nd of October. That is still on schedule. Yeah. Very good. So we will broadcast this before then. Again, your website, if some of our listeners or viewers would like to check this out with far more information and also ongoing information, again, is overlandingambulance.com. And I have to say thank you very much for joining me for this episode of Fikava Vet Chat. If anyone would like to comment on this episode or has suggestions for future episodes, please email us on vetchat@fikava.org. You can also contact Fikava through our social media outlets or via our website. So thank you very much to Rachel and to Lawrence. Bon voyage to you and also to Peggy. And I like to welcome everyone again to another episode of Fikava Vet Chat very soon.